Good morning, everyone. On behalf of everyone here at Dyn365Pros, welcome to today's presentation. Coffee with the Pros, 15 minutes of Dynamics 365 learning for admins and power users. For those of you that are new to us, our mission, it's simple, to provide customers with the highest level of advice and service when implementing and using Dynamics 365. Again, for those folks that don't know us yet, we are certified Microsoft professionals with over 10 years experience delivering Dynamics 365 and CRM solutions to many different industry verticals. We are experts in implementation, customization, integration, training, and we also have long-term support packages to keep you going as well. Today, we're going to talk about customizing sales process in Dynamics 365. We have here with us my colleague, Jessica Smith. She's a certified Microsoft professional. She's going to be doing the heavy lifting today, and I'm going to pass the presentation rights over to her momentarily. All of your microphones have been muted to eliminate background noise. You do have the ability to ask questions using your GoToWebinar dashboard. You'll also note that there is one handout for you. You can take that with you after the webinar, so to speak, to help you in your business process flow creation. If this is something you need help with, just contact us and we'll be happy to lend a hand. All right then, let's hand the presentation over to Jessica. So I'm going to pause the display for just a moment while we do that.
Hey everybody, thanks Mark.
You're welcome.
We're just going to hop right into it today. Go ahead and minimize this out of my way. So today we're going to be walking through just how to edit the business process flows that you see inside some of the records that you now see in CRM. Typically they're in the lead or the opportunity record, but there also can be other business processes throughout your environment, such as cases and those kinds of things, just to help your users walk through step by step how to get from point A to point B in their sale, or point A to point Z in their case closure, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to hop in. There's a couple different ways that you can access the business process flows in CRM. Today I'm just going to be accessing it through the form where it's displayed, but you can actually also get to it from settings. If you change it to settings and go up to processes, you can get it from there as well. I'm going to go ahead and open this opportunity. You'll see here there's the business process flow here at the top. These are going to be the standard out-of-the-box processes that Microsoft offers, these here, but you can create your own and disable the existing ones, or you can edit the existing ones and also create your own. You can have many different business process flows for your organization, depending on different groups or different teams that are trying to close different kinds of sales. Or different support type cases that you need to have, a different process and different stages for each of those different steps under the stage. You can have several of these throughout your environment. The quickest and easiest way to edit these is, for me, is to actually just come up here into the process button. And you can see a couple options here. You can switch the process, edit the process, or abandon it, which means you don't want to apply it to that opportunity. We're going to go ahead and select edit process. And this pulls up the new visual editor for the business process flows. So typically the first thing that I would do is I use this little button here to fit to my canvas so I can actually see all of my stages all in one area. And you'll see a few things up here, updating and validating your stages. You can save this as, and that means you can save it to a new name and actually copy your processes. So you don't have to start with a brand new one every single time. You can just save this as, create a new name for it, and then apply your changes to that new business process. That way you don't have to start from fresh every single time. Good little shortcut. You can deactivate processes. So if they're no longer applicable to your company, you can, instead of deleting them, you can actually deactivate them. And that way, if they ever become relevant again, or if you ever want to be able to, save that and copy it later on, you can always reactivate it. You can order the process flow, which just means if you have multiple processes, you can select which one shows up first. And then you can actually enable security roles. This button here is going to show you the security roles that are available, or that already have access to this business process flow, but you actually add security to this under the security menu and the security roles. So I'm going to hop into kind of the different areas of this. You'll see some things up here, and we'll talk about that in a second, but quickly you'll see over here the components. So the components are the things that we can have in our process. The flow is these major boxes. And then the compositions, the steps in the workflow here, those are the things that you can apply within the actual stage. So if I click here, you'll see that the box over here changed to the properties of this stage. So it's telling us that the stage name is qualify, the category is qualify, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And the entity that we're dealing with here is the opportunity, okay? If I click on this little details tab, it's going to show me all of the various steps that are within this stage already. If I click on one, it's going to go ahead and show me over here the step name, what it's related to, the data field for that entity. So remember, we're dealing with the opportunity here. So it's going to show us that we're dealing with the contact field, and then it's going to show us the sequence. So if I was to click and drag this down and change the sequence of identify the contact, you'll see if I apply it here, I should go ahead and change the sequence. Might not just be refreshing, sorry. So if we go ahead and move this down, there we go, that's what changes the actual sequence. And then we can apply the change. That just saves it. So it's going to save it in sequence 3, meaning that when we pull that business process flow up inside the opportunity, we're actually going to see this listed as the 3rd step now, rather than the 1st. So you can go ahead and move those things up and down as you like, and it'll change that. And just remember to click apply. That saves your changes to that actual stage that you just, or that step in the stage that you just applied. You can also make steps required. So if a step is required to be completed before you can move on to the next stage, that's what this button is. We just kind of tell our clients to be cautious of making steps required because it can cause a little bit of frustration sometimes with users. If something is not absolutely necessary to be able to move forward in their processes and move this opportunity through to the next stages in the pipeline, we recommend don't make it required. But if it is absolutely mandatory that they should, they have to complete that step before they move forward, then absolutely make it required. And you just do that by checking the box. And then when we go into that business process, we would see this as a little red asterisk. This field here would be have a little red asterisk next to it showing us that it's required before we can move on to the next stage. So there's a couple other things that we can do with these now. There's a few, let me go ahead and click on components. So we can also add conditions. So prior to some of the more recent versions of Dynamics 365, you didn't have the condition available, but now we do. So we can say, we can click and drag this wherever we want. And then again, if I click that, it's going to show me all of the stages and the condition that I have. And I can actually now click on the condition and I can name it. And then I can say, well, it's going to apply to whatever field we want it to apply to regarding the entities that we're working with. So because we're working with the opportunity, it's going to go ahead and know that we're trying to apply a condition to the opportunity, and then it's going to give us the ability to put in our field that we want a condition on, what the condition is, okay, and then what we want it to do after that. So this is kind of really nice, neat functionality that you can say, well, if they select, if I identify, customer need equals something, then you can go ahead and move it to a different stage, versus if it equals something else, you can move it to a different stage up here at the top. So this is a really nice kind of tool to have. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. You'll see if I click on this, it highlights it in yellow, and I can go ahead and delete this, move that out. It gives me back to my stages here. We also have the ability to put in workflow. So we can apply standard workflow to this process. Oh, actually, these are done in here. You have to put these in at the beginning or the end of an actual stage. So we can't put this in the middle of one of our stages. It has to either be as we enter the stage or as we exit the stage. So if I open this, actually, I think I clicked and drag it in there. There we go. I wasn't hovering properly. So now we can go ahead and put the display name of the workflow, and then we actually look up the workflow. The key here is that this has to be an on-demand workflow. This cannot be something that triggers off of create a record or anything else. And it has to be related to the entity for that stage. So it has to be a workflow built under the opportunity entity, and it has to be an on-demand workflow, okay? The two components there. So we can actually, as we're exiting a stage or entering a stage, our process can actually trigger a workflow that we already have built. And let's say it creates tasks based on it creates various tasks named a certain way based on the sales stage that you're in. So whether it's, create proposal and you also want a task created for the user for that, you can put that quick little workflow in here as an on-demand workflow, and that would add that. So a couple other components. I'm going to talk about steps really quick. I'm going to go ahead and click here, back to here. So let's say I wanted to add a new step into my develop stage of the opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and click on components, drag and drop my step in. You'll see that I can drag it wherever I want. Okay, and it'll insert it there. And now my new step that doesn't have a step name is in sequence 2. So I can go ahead and change this to, let's see. Let's say we want to do the actual close. Now let's do budget amount in here. So if I select the field before naming it, the display name will actually just put in the field name, but then I can always change this. So let's say it's a really long field name and you want to abbreviate, we can just go ahead and do that. Like that. And then it's going to put it in sequence 2. And the key here is to always click apply. That's going to apply your changes to the sales process flow. Okay, so now we have an additional step, budget amount. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to actually get rid of that workflow that we put in here because I don't want to have that hanging out there and we didn't select anything. Go ahead and delete that. Okay, so now that workflow is gone. Okay. And then a couple other little components before I actually pop out of this and show you the changes in the system. I wanted to show you also changing the display name and the category. So you'll see that you have a display name for here, and then you have a category. The category is actually looking at an option set within the system in your solution, and you can make changes to this. We'll go over that in a separate copy with the pros. But the great thing is that we can actually categorize our pipeline for our entire company to be the same, right? So as we move through our processes, we can have the same pipeline phases, which is the category here, for the entire organization, regardless of what the actual stage name is called. So we've got qualify, develop, propose, and close. So in this case, let's say qualify is great, but in this scenario here over in develop, the stage name really needs to be, let's call it discovery. Okay, for this particular process, we are calling it discovery, but we're still going to call the category develop. And again, we'll go into that, a reason why you would do that in another Coffee with the Pros. So now if I go ahead and apply that change, it's going to make the change here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click update, which is going to actually update the sales process. And one or two other things I'm going to show you here is the mini map. This just shows you how many stages you have. So as you add more stages, it'll shrink and show you just kind of how many stages you have in your environment. You can close it. I typically use that as closed. And then I can actually zoom in and I can zoom back out. So that's kind of nice as you're working with it. If you do have a business process that's very long, you can scroll here as well, but it's really nice to be able to see where you're at in the process and how many stages you have by these little guys here. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. And then obviously I'm not going to see this change here just yet, but I'm going to go, because I need to refresh my screen. Go ahead and reload this. And you'll see a couple things. One, our stage name was changed to Discovery. And if I click in that, I will see that budget amount stage that I had there, or step, sorry, that I had there. And that's already put in the budget amount that we have already on the form, because this is a field we already have on the form. So that's the quick and down and dirty way how to change your business processes. Mark, do we have a couple more minutes?
Go for it.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how we can make sure that we are looking at, I will show you where you can see all of the business process flows for your environment from a system admin standpoint. So if I go to settings and then I go to processes, I'll see all the activated processes here. Typically you'll have a lot of workflows and other things in your environment possibly, but here in this test environment, we just have some business process flows. Again, you can have multiple in your environment, and this kind of shows you some of the out-of-the-box ones that might be offered to you, and some of the test ones we've created. If I click on that sort by entity, I'll see two for the opportunity, and then here's one for the lead. This is when a sale starts with the lead. It's going to flow from a lead to an opportunity, so that needs to be a separate business process. It should have the same steps, most of the same steps as your opportunity sales process, but again, these are two different things because one begins with the lead and flows into the opportunity, and one just begins with the opportunity. So that's something to keep in mind if you are editing the stock out-of-the-box Microsoft sales processes for your sales organization. Keep in mind that whatever changes you're applying to the opportunity sales process should be also applied to the lead to sales process. That way, regardless of where the process starts or where the sale starts, I should say, whether it begins with a lead or it begins with an opportunity, the user will see all of the same steps. So this is where you can get to those, and then you can just create a new one by clicking on new, and then you're going to name it and select business process flow, and then create it from whatever entity you're working with. So that's how you can begin a new one. And once you do that, the editor will pull up. And then one other quick thing I'll show you while I'm in settings is as you create custom business process flows in your environment, anything new that you're creating, keep in mind that you do need to make sure that your security roles have access to it. And the way to do that is just to click on security and then go to security roles. And let's say salesperson is one, and you've created a new business process flow. If I open the sales manager role, for example, and click on business processes here, you'll see this tab. This is where you can grant security roles access to various business processes or remove their access. And this just helps so that when they're working with a record, they don't have to constantly click switch process and go back and forth between all of the processes they have access to. You can default basically their business process. If they're only working with one or two, and let's say you have 5 sales processes in your organization, and that particular security role would only be working with 1 or 2, we recommend you just remove the access to the other one, so it helps the user when they're working through their opportunities and they don't have to constantly click back and forth. So that's where you do that. And that's all we had for today, folks. Thank you for joining us for Coffee with the Pros, and we look forward to hearing and you joining next time. Oh, and don't forget the handout. There's a handout available with some instructions in there for you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding folks of that, Jessica. So if you have the skill set and the time to change or create business process flows, have at it. If you're not sure or you're too busy, call us. We'd love to help. You'll see our contact information on the screen there. And thank you for attending, and keep an eye out for the next Coffee with the Pros. Thank you.